Good morning, everyone. All the CGTN friends on all social media platforms, welcome to this live streaming in Singapore. Today, we are at the Asian Civilizations Museum, and many of you may recognize this yellow dress behind me. And this is an iconic dress designed by the Chinese designer Guo Pei, and it was worn by pop culture icon Rihanna at a 2015 Met Gala. And this dress was I remember that year after the show, there was a lot of, it's an Instagram sensation. A lot of people were commenting on it, saying it looks like a yellow omelet. Today, we're at the Guo Pei exhibition. It's actually the Asian Civilizations Museum's first fashion exhibition. And it's great that we have the curator for this exhibition joining us, Jackie.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Yes, hi, Jackie.
Good morning, Miro.
So this must be like one of the most Instagrammable dresses in recent pop culture history, isn't it? So why, I was telling everyone this is the Asian Civilizations Museum's first fashion collection. What was the idea? Why do you started to do fashion collections suddenly?
I think for the Asian Civilizations Museum, we're really happy to work with Guo Pei this time to explore the best of Chinese art and culture and couture, particularly through the lens of fashion. It is something we think that it's important to represent in about Asian cultures. And it is actually, at the moment, seldom represented in terms of Asian fashion in museums today. And this is something we want to try to do more at Asian Civilizations Museum as we move from this exhibition into opening our first permanent gallery on Asian fashion in February 2020.
Oh, wow. So there will be a permanent collection.
So this is the start of more to come.
I see. So why did you choose Guo Pei? Now, we know Guo Pei, she was quite famous domestically for designing gala dresses for singers and performers during the Spring Festival gala party, and her dress. And later on, I think she did quite a lot of bridal dresses. And then since Rihanna wore this particular dress, her fame, she's gained international fame. So when you, what was the idea? Like, did she approach you, or you approached her? How did that collaboration came along?
Right. So
maybe we'll walk around the dress,
sure.
and so the audience can see a little bit.
So I think the reason why we want to work with Guo Pei at the Asian Civilizations Museum is mainly because of two reasons. One is because we do believe that her works, such as the Rihanna gown that you see here, really represents the peak of Chinese couture today. She is, of course, undeniably China's leading couturière today. She is the only Chinese designer invited as a guest member on the Chambre de la Haute Couture, which is the French trade association for the best couturiers today. And at ACM, we believe in representing the best Chinese or Asian artistic traditions from past to present. So in that sense, the quality of her dresses, such as the one you see here, really excited us to want to work with her. And the other reason we want to work with Guo Pei also is because I think in terms of the designers who are Asian today, not all of them are like Guo Pei in the sense that she takes pride and proudly acknowledges the Chinese roots and heritage in her works. And this is what we got us talking with her about looking at in a way, the importance of keeping Chinese heritage alive and relevant through her modern interpretations.
Right. So there are actually a lot of Chinese elements in all these dresses, and they're really a piece of art because, for example, this particular piece, I've been told that workers spend 6,000 hours on it, so there's a lot of intricate embroideries, a lot of time and effort and thought put behind, right? So was this, this was just on loan for Rihanna, was it? Or?
This is a good question. This dress was made in Guo Pei's collection in 2010. And actually, a fun fact is that Guo Pei said she didn't know who Rihanna was when Rihanna actually approached her to wear the dress later in 2015. So it wasn't made for Rihanna, but Rihanna found it on the internet. And Guo Pei said at first she was reluctant to lend it to Rihanna because she was concerned that Rihanna might have a difficult time walking up the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 2015.
Because it's very heavy.
Because it's a very heavy dress. The dress weighs 25 kilograms, and the original model that Guo Pei chose to walk the Beijing runway in 2010 actually couldn't finish the walk because it was too heavy. So the lights were too heavy for the model, and so the lights were killed, and she had to be helped off the runway. So Guo Pei just was concerned that whether Rihanna would want to have such a difficult walk, but Rihanna
took the challenge.
Took up the challenge, and Guo Pei said she's very grateful that Rihanna has breathed new life into the dress. She said she was very touched to see how Rihanna walked up. With a very strong look of determination.
Yeah, like a queen.
Like a queen, as you rightly put.
So apart from this iconic dress, we also have 28 dresses on display today, right? So let's go take a look.
Thank you.
So here we'll have a little sneak peek, cut through some of the permanent collections of the Asian Civilizations Museum. Maybe it's a good opportunity to share with our international audience what is the Asian Civilizations Museum?
At Asian Civilizations Museum, we have 3 floors, and each floor explores an important theme in our collection. The second floor that we are now walking through looks at faith and beliefs, particularly, and also there's also a gallery on Southeast Asian art. And what you see here is, of course, we are now in particularly the ancient religion section, so we look particularly at Hindu Buddhist representations in Southeast Asia and India and China. Of course, a very important world religion that began in Asia.
Are they stone carvings or stone carving, wood carving?
Yes, a lot of them mainly are stone carvings across the region. I also wanted to say that this exhibition for Guo Pei, Chinese art and couture, we have actually selected masterpieces in the museum collection to pair with her dresses.
Right.
And so actually right here you can see we have taken a Chinese tanka, a Buddhist textile.
Here.
So a textile representing the Buddhist image. So that's this one was taken to be included in the exhibition. So there's quite a lot of, so in total there are about 20 pieces in our museum collection that is in the exhibition.
So
that
later
were taken.
on we'll see the tanka.
You will see the tanka compared with Dating.
Yeah. Right. So what was the art piece that is pairing for the yellow dress?
Oh, for the yellow dress, we deliberately actually wanted to start with the expected. So it's the theme of the space that we were just, where Rihanna is the idea of Guo Pei in the fashion world. So we wanted people to start with an interesting teaser that this is what you think you expect to see in the show.
Right.
But the rest of the exhibition, actually, this exhibition is not a typical fashion retrospective of Guo Pei's works, but rather we planned for it to be exciting visual dialogue between our masterpieces as well as masterworks in her collection.
Brilliant.
So it's much more a dialogue.
Right. So the pairing, does it comes, the art piece comes after the dress, or you choose the art piece first or with the dress? So she select the dresses first, and then you find art pieces to pair with it, or how does that work?
Actually, I think I'm very grateful for the tremendous amount of curatorial independence that Guo Pei has given me and the museum in this collaboration. She has graciously allowed us to choose 29 dresses for this exhibition, and the way I selected it was I tried to look at masterpieces in her collections that shows her reimagination of Chinese traditions. And then I would pick, in a way, pieces from our collection that bring out how she was referencing Chinese past.
Right.
So to be honest, of the 29 pieces, she only changed 3 dresses because she got quite excited. She and her team said, oh, actually, I maybe perhaps can recommend another dress that might go better with your collection. Right. So it's, in a way, I think she was, many designers actually are very particular about the way they are, of course, represented, and I was actually very surprised to be given that kind of curatorial independence and trust.
Right. So this is another sort of iconic bridal dress that she designed for a celebrity in China, Angela Baby, right? She wore it for her engagement or wedding?
For her wedding.
For her wedding.
With Huang Xiaoming.
And what's interesting is that you have a traditional Peranakan bridal dress right next to it, and you can see the striking similarities. What's the story behind that?
So I think we start the exhibition in this section on Guo Pei's bridal dresses that are contrasted with our best Peranakan bridal dresses, and this of course was the start of the whole exhibition. So in 2015 there was so much media coverage of this wedding between the Chinese actress Angela Baby and her very famous husband also, Huang Xiaoming, the actor. And so the wedding was dubbed the Chinese wedding of the year because it was really glamorous and lavish. And when I saw this one image of Angela Baby wearing this dress, I felt instinctively that the designer, Guo Pei, I thought she must have seen this exact piece, because at that moment in time I was researching on our Peranakan bridal clothes. And so so the director and I, we thought we would just correspond with her over email and ask whether she had actually seen this piece. So I emailed her with an image of both, and she said, she replied quite quickly to say yes. I mean, to our surprise, she had actually seen the museum's traveling exhibition to the Musée Quai Branly in Paris in 2010. So in that exhibition, we had a very big section on Peranakan weddings and Peranakan bridal dresses, and she said it really influenced her to create her bridal collection that we see over here.
Right.
So when I asked her, we got really excited about reuniting her pieces, her creations, with pieces in our collection that she saw. And that's how the idea of an exhibition, there's a dialogue between the past and the present, came about.
Right. So this is the beginning of the story.
Yes, very much.
So let's take a closer look at these two dresses. What are the key characteristics of a Peranakan dress?
I think
I mean, first there you have the motifs, right?
Yes. So in terms of, we call this a Penang Peranakan style wedding dress. When we call it style, it's because a lot of times these bridal dresses are actually made in China, exported through Shanghai for the Peranakan brides in Southeast Asia. We call this the Penang style particularly because you can see this rabbit fur trimming at the edges, which is seen as a sign of fertility for some of the Peranakans in Penang. And the other thing that we notice, of course, is this use of the bright orange color that also captivated Guo Pei to make hers in this orange color. This bright orange for the Peranakans, they actually refer to it as the Penang orange. So Penang, it's a Malay term, and it particularly refers to the aqrina nut, which is related to the Peranakan habit of chewing sirih or pinglang, and so that was the fruit. That's the color of the fruit, and so to the Peranakans there is a local meaning to this color. But when I asked Guo Pei, she said she chose this, or she said this orange struck her because most of the bridal gowns she had seen are red. So to her it was the color itself that is striking. So of course we cannot expect fashion designers to know the historical meaning in their historical context, but in terms of, I guess, in a way what connects her to it is the beauty of the piece itself.
And these, is it gold, silver threads?
Yes. So in terms of the method of embroidery, Guo Pei's for this piece is a good, very classic representation of how Guo Pei tries to be very faithful to traditional Chinese methods of using gold and silver thread in their bridal costumes. So in the Peranakan one that we see here, as well as the ones that she has, the only method used is what we call couching, which is the fastening of gold thread to the fabric surface without actually going through the fabric. So all these are fastened at the top, and this this is a method that was used traditionally as well as in this very piece. But there are many other pieces in this show that show how Guo Pei today it's really very much leading the way in the manipulation and the using of Go thread in couture today. She has a lot of innovative methods, but in this piece, she told me she really wanted to keep to the traditional Chinese method of doing it. And particularly, we can see also, as I have mentioned earlier, of course, how she kept to using the lotus as well as the goldfishes as the main motif. Yes, that's the lotus, and even the rendering, the rendering of the lotus and the proportion of it in relation to the goldfish. She really admired the original piece, and so she was trying to be more faithful to it.
Yeah. She must like sketched or took a picture or what?
Yes, she said she took a lot of pictures.
Okay.
But she said that, as you can see from her pieces, she believes also in modernizing tradition.
Right.
So for this piece, I think the main change we can see is the tailoring and the silhouette. She says
more...
that the modern aesthetic, of course, has an emphasis on the waist, so she has made it much more tapered.
Right.
And we can't really see here, but she says she has changed the skirt to be much more wearer-friendly. So this skirt, you put it on and you just zip it up, whereas the traditional pieces is made up of two pieces that you got to carefully put and button at the top. So she says she has to take into mind the modern woman wearing it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And this is another bridal piece, and so I know this because that's the peony color, right?
The phoenix color.
Phoenix color.
Yes, the
sorry.
phoenix color.
color.
Yeah, the Peruvians, they like to term this the phoenix color because they feel that it reflects the multicolor nature of the feathers of the phoenix. But it's also called the yunjian or the cloud collar in the Chinese context. And historically, it has a cosmological significance whereby it is put at the neck and it symbolizes the divide between the head, which represents the spiritual part of the body, as well as the material, which is the rest of the body. So it's an opening to a more spiritual side of humans. And Guo Pei really liked this piece that she saw in the exhibition, and she made her own, in a way, her own golden version of it that you can see here. These two pieces she also saw in Paris.
So these were one piece or separated?
Oh, these were actually on two separate, that's a very good question. It was actually on two separate wedding, Peranakan wedding bridal ensembles that she reimagined and put together in one piece.
Right.
So, and for this piece, she said she wanted to experiment with newer methods of using gold thread. So in the double phoenix that you see in this piece, the gold thread is not the way that is done traditionally. For this, the gold thread actually goes through the fabric surface, and she said her team had spent many years looking for the right kind of gold thread that could actually create this effect. So we were talking about this, how when I discussed with her, we thought it's nice how when you come into the door, you see both traditional techniques as well as new methods of working with gold thread.
Right, right. So the traditional ones, it's not going into the fabric, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't go into the fabric, so it's couched and fastened directly at the top.
I'm trying to see the differences. So what kind of effect that the ones that going into the fabric create?
It is when it goes, because I think Guo Pei is very good also at layering her gold thread, such that in terms of this, I think you can see it has a greater depth. Whereas
more dense?
Yes, more dense. Whereas the traditional couching method, usually it's a bit more even, and also it has a more, in a way, painter-like effect. So you can see next to it.
Right. This is more 3D.
Yes, pretty
That's
much.
more flat, right?
And at the back, I think the main reason I wanted to show this working with Guo Pei also is the idea of how in the traditional Peranakan version that you see here, this sleeveless vest is known as the xia pei. And traditionally, when the Chinese, in Qing China, when people got married, the term feng guan xia pei is used, meaning you wear the phoenix crown and you wear the xia pei, which is this sleeveless vest, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you could wear the phoenix crown and this vest, because on that day you were considered empress for a day. So the the authorities above would let you actually on that day wear garments and items that signify rank. So for Guo Pei, she was inspired by the shape of the vest to make her own version that is an open jacket on this piece.
Right. Well, I also want to point out to our international audience that the Peranakan Museum in Singapore is a great place to see the Peranakan bridal collections and also many other art collections, including furnitures and porcelains. We will see that there's a pairing with the Peranakan porcelain with Guo Pei's work later on, right? Yeah. If you see anything that you want to highlight, then just feel free. Okay. Yeah. So these are all bridal. Maybe we would talk about the couture. Careful. Yeah.
So, this is.
So this it's the very colorful piece. Aesthetically it's different from the Chinese taste at that time. This is the well-known Peranakan porcelain, and this shape it's called kam cheng.
Yes.
So
kam cheng is the Hokkien way of saying gai zhong. So a covered jar.
Right.
And this is a rare piece in the museum collection. The Peranakan Museum is part of the Asian Civilizations Museum, and in our collection, this is rare because of its size. This is among the largest kind of kamcheng or covered jar that Peranakans use on festive occasions like weddings, and this was this kind of design. It's also very what we will call Nonya wear or very Peranakan style. So it's made in Tingterton and then exported. And why we say it's to their style is because particularly of the phoenix and peony that we see right here. So the main panels show a very beautiful phoenix.
Yep.
And this phoenix and peony occurs not just in Peranakan porcelain, but also in a lot of Peranakan works of art, including their jewelry as well as their textiles. And so in selecting this piece, this platform or this section we are at, we look at Guo Pei's use of Chinese imagery in her works on the runway.
Okay.
So we were just in the bridal section. This is the second section on China and the world, and we look at how she uses Chinese imagery in her very Western, in her works on the runway that reflects a much more Western silhouette.
Right.
So in this platform, this is the phoenix and peony platform.
And
yes.
the peony
so you can see
patterns.
the peony here and the phoenix, a phoenix tail in front. And also, we also thought that there was a connection in terms of the use of color. This very bright pink that Peranakans love for Peranakan porcelain. It was very similar in color also to this piece. And I think the phoenix connection, talking to Guo Pei, she has also often talked about how when she think of Singapore, she would think of the mythical bird, the phoenix, because she feels that she talks about how the multicolor feathers of the bird to her reflects the multicultural nature of Singapore.
Wow.
So we thought that would be nice to pair something that has a relationship to Singapore's to the Singapore identity. For this piece, this is also the director's favorite. It's also one of Guo Pei's most well-known works. This work called Palace Flower or Gonghua. It shows, I think, Guo Pei's efforts to revive a Chinese traditional artistic methods, but also bring it to the next level. So she said, in particular, when you look at this Chinese silk painted flowers, she was trying to look for artists or craftsmen who know how to do this technique, because after the Cultural Revolution, she said she actually tried very hard but couldn't find anyone who know how to make this. So traditionally, these flowers, you would find them on the headgear of Chinese noble women in the Qing court. So you would see how the Ge have them on the headgear. So she, however, found someone who collected these kind of flowers.
Okay.
So she said she asked to acquire from this person his entire collection, which is about 5,500 pieces, and that went into making this dress in memory of that technique. So all the flowers you see here, there were 5,500. And She said at the same time she and her team studied these pieces, and together also with pieces that are done by other Western couture houses today, because she said she believes in not only in reviving the past but also very much to bring it forward. So studying the best of pieces today as well as in the past, she together with her team created this beautiful mermaid blue gown that you see here, using this new technique that they were doing.
Right.
That after they research and using the old and the new pieces. So these represents the conversation between the blue and the pink piece that we see here is a dialogue between techniques of the past and that of new ones invented by her studio today.
Right. Beautiful.
And we will go now to see another. This is a really iconic Guo Pei piece, and I think it has so much to say also about Chinese artistic traditions, particularly, of course, the very idea of Chinese porcelain.
Yeah.
And how
Qinghuaci.
Qinghuaci, yes, that's the name of this piece, Qinghuaci. We were very, this was one of the first pieces we asked Guo Pei to lend us. Of course, it's very iconic and shows her team's endeavor to, in a way, bring out the best of Chinese porcelain traditions. So when I showed Guo Pei and her team this piece, this is a very rare early Ming Yongle period blue and white porcelain. When I showed from the museum collection, when I showed her and her team this, they laughed because they also appreciated and instantly saw the connections that we were trying to make. Of course, firstly, you see the similarities in visual design. It is the central design on both is that of single blooming flowers surrounded by bands of design, particularly that you can see the swirling waves on both. But the other very strong and important point is the use of the blue color or the blue pigment that you see on both. So Guo Pei's team said that they actually used 2 months to actually research to find this particular blue pigment that she used in this piece. And she eventually bought the pigment from Turkey. And I think that has a very nice relationship to how traditionally what we see as blue and white porcelain from China, a lot of the blue pigment, particularly in the early pieces, actually came from the Middle East. So these pieces, so in terms of the blue color, it really was also originating from the Middle East.
I see.
And this design is a design that was commonly exported to the Middle East. You find similar designs in royal collections in Iran and in Turkey. So in a way, this section, as I mentioned, is about China and the world. So there's a very nice connection there. And I think the other thing that I want to really point out is this dress is really different from the rest that you see in these pieces because of the technique of making it. If she wanted to, in a way, pay tribute to the process of making porcelain, so this dress is first hand-drawn and hand-painted before it's embroidered. But you can see that the embroidery, compared to the rest, is very sparse. It's not very tightly embroidered because she wants to let people see that the underlying layer of blue is actually created by the blue paint, the blue pigment. So it's I think, different from the rest, which when you see a color, is because it's very tightly, very densely embroidered.
Right.
So this allows you to see that the craftsmanship or the method of making this was painting first. And the other thing that really amazed me when I saw this piece is how the extensive amount of effort her team went into decorating this textile, this fabric on both sides. So if you stand at the side, you can see that how the insides of the dress is also decorated. And in a way, it corresponds to how porcelain, such as this piece, is decorated both inside and outside.
Right.
So the amount of effort in being inspired and in trying to reproduce how porcelain is being made, I think it's really fantastic. So it's both decorated on both the inside and outside.
Yeah, I think you guys also did a good job to display that.
Thank you. Yeah, we took some time to position it so that people could see that. Yeah. So it's also cleverly draped so that it looks like porcelain shards. This dress is also really tall because this has the highest heels in the whole show. The shoes are 40 centimeters in height.
she's a great designer, but a nightmare for models, I guess.
Well, her models are known to be to walk much more slowly on the runway to balance that.
Yeah.
And the reason is, I think she actually was very much inspired by Manchu platform shoes from the Qing period.
And I also read somewhere that she said, like if you want to be queen, you have to like carry the weight or something. Right?
Yes.
You have to suffer to look beautiful, or what's the idea?
She mentioned for Guo Pei, she mentioned that if you want to wear the crown, you should be able to bear the weight of responsibility.
Right.
And I think that is very much, I think, her perspective of beauty in works of art and in life. And so this piece that we see here, it's one of the heaviest gowns that she has made is actually 50 kilograms.
50.
Yeah, and it took us one whole morning actually to mount and arrange this piece. We had to build 3 additional supports in front so that the mannequin will not break, and also for the safety of both the object as well as the visitors, that this mannequin will not fall over. Yeah, it's a really heavy dress, and she mentioned it was also a surprise, the choice of model she had to walk this during the China runway show, because she said that people were saying, oh, you should get an 18-year-old who's strong enough to walk down the runway. But she said she felt that in her mind, and eventually she invited the oldest living supermodel at that time, which is the American model Carmen Del Orifice. She walked in this dress at the age of 78. With the help of actually 2 persons, but she completed the walk, and Guo Pei said it really touched her, like looking at that image, because she feels that Carmen brought out the spirit of the dress and her work, which is the idea that true beauty comes with the sacrifice of time and with life. And it's often, I think it really parallels how she talked about how she thinks that fashion and couture is different, because fashion is fast and trendy, but might be out of season very quickly. But she hopes that her works, through the dedication of time and life of her embroiderers, she hopes that they will be able to withstand the test of time.
She's doing something very different from the fast retailers. We live in a world where every season you have new stuff. Anything here you want to talk about?
I think
that's this
we
piece.
will have to, if you come to this exhibition, I think you must not miss this masterpiece in Guo Pei's works. This is the other entrance to come into the exhibition, and in this section, I was looking at her works, and I felt that in all her collections, she always have one stunning gold yellow gown, and with a lot of gold thread. And I think this style really also reflected the Chinese imperial and sartorial past, and particularly in terms of her her gold works. This is really a masterpiece. It was made in 2006 when she said she wanted to make the most beautiful dress in the world without consideration whether people would buy it or not. And she said her family and friends were saying she must be they were thinking like, why is she and her team spending 50,000 hours on it? I mean, this is known as 50,000, 50, yeah.
That's how many years?
Well, I was talking to a textile collector, and this would be like one embroiderer's lifetime work. If you work like every day working on it. So 50,000 hours, she said. And in this exhibition, I think the dresses that you see, they range between 2,000 to 50,000 hours. So even the simplest dress used 2,000 man-hours. And for this dress, I think the amount of time went, as I just mentioned, she thinks it's really a dedication to the craft. And we pair it together with this tanka that we just saw, where it came from. Where it came from in the permanent gallery. Because traditionally the Chinese, including imperial families, they would donate tankas or Buddhist textiles like this to the temples as a way of accumulating merit. And you accumulate merit. The idea was also related to the number of hours spent in making this kind of textiles. So I think the idea of time being related to life and sacrifice, I think is really something that comes out in this works. And also the very idea, I think, why we pair them is the reference to Buddhist imagery and the idea and the concept about life. Because dress, you can see has a lot of imagery of lotuses. There's a lot of lotus and lotus-inspired flowers. And similarly, in this tanka, we can see it captures the moment of the enlightenment of the Buddha. He's standing on the lotus, rising above water. And lotus has this very strong connotations of purity in Buddhist philosophy. So for her, this collection was also named Samsara, which is the Hindu-Buddhist concept of life cycle and rebirth. So that she said she was thinking about the meaning of life, how one spends their time in life, and she wanted to, as I mentioned, make the most beautiful dress using her time in this piece.
So when you showed her that you were going to pair this tanka with her dajing, what did she say?
She actually she immediately also got the connection because if you go to Rose Studio today in Beijing, her studio, when you walk into her studio, there is a section where she displays the tankas that are made by her embroiderers. Because as part of the training of her embroiderers, she make them actually look at old tankas like this and then mimic and try to emulate the workmanship of it. So as I was telling her, she understood that the idea was that if you come in through this door for the exhibition, it is similar to like walking into Rose Studio in Beijing, that you would see like a tanka hanging and a kind of representing that kind of devotion that her team has in making their works.
Right. Wow. Yeah. This is one craftsman's lifelong work.
If it's one person, but she of course today she has a very strong team, a very large team of over 500 embroiderers today who she trains to make these pieces.
Right. So she came here when the exhibition opened.
Oh yes, she came for opening week.
For the opening week. What did she think about this pairing with her dress and art pieces, and what was your interaction like with her?
I think from my very first interaction with Guo Pei, on the Angela baby dress and asking her, I must say that, and also looking at interviews, interacting with her, she's really, for all her fame and also the incredible levels of her craft, she's actually a very approachable person. And when she came here, she was really friendly, and I think we did ask, she put the final touches with us on this exhibition. She made very little changes, and I think what was interesting is she said she really liked this also dialogue between our pieces and her pieces, and she said when we wanted to work with her from the start, we already said this, we weren't looking for a typical fashion retrospective of her works. And I think in coming here, and especially walking through the permanent galleries, she said that she really felt like how this show was really something about Asian civilizations and how there's a connection between the past and the present.
Yes, I think you've done an amazing job. And judging from the public response, the show has been doing very well in the past few weeks, isn't it?
We have been very encouraged by the number of visitors who have come so far. And I think what's also interesting is we've been studying the visitorship demographics, the profile of the people who come, and quite a number of them are first-time visitors to the museum. And also significantly, a younger crowd is coming into the museum, and we hope that this exhibition would encourage them to come more to the museum in future.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miro.
Thank you. So we're at the Guo Pei exhibition at the Asian Civilizations Museum. If you happen to be in Singapore, don't forget to check it out. And as Jackie was saying, that later on there will be permanent fashion textile collections. And don't forget to check out the Peranakan Museum, where there are a lot more Peranakan artifacts there.
The Peranakan Museum is currently closed.
Oh, under renovation.
Yes, under renovation, but we'll open in 2021 with more exciting displays.
Yes. Okay. On that note, we'll close today's live streaming. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
Thank you.